This is going to be long and complicated, but I need to get it off my chest. A lot has happened to me in the last few months, and I don't know if what I'm doing is the right thing. I just feel very alone. I'm 17 and live with my father. My mother passed away less than a year ago. She had been sick with cancer for a very long time before that. I think she had been in and out of the hospital since I was 1 year old. The last few years have been very hard on us as a family, and since Dad was the sole breadwinner, I had to take on the role of primary caretaker for my mother. Sometimes her sister, my Aunt Edna, female, 38, would come and help out, but it was mostly me and Mom. I tried my best to take care of her, and I would do it all over again without complaints. I just miss her a lot, and it feels horrible not to have her around anymore. It has been a long time now, but I still keep missing her. Not a day goes by that I don't go to sleep without talking to her and telling her about my day. I just cannot forget her, even though everyone around me sometimes does. It feels as though she never existed. The same is not true for my father. I don't know why, but he has changed a lot. It didn't take him long to move on from Mom. He took all her photos down, he doesn't talk about her, and he doesn't have any mementos of hers with him. I don't know why he is this way because I saw them being deeply in love ever since I was a child. It was just the three of us, and the house was full of so much love and happiness. And then Mom got sick, and suddenly all of it faded away. I remember that by the end, Dad had become very snappy and irritable. And I should not be saying or feeling this, but it felt as though he was waiting for her to die. He started staying longer at work and used to avoid being with her. It was horrible to watch, but thankfully Mom was too tired to realize and understand that her own husband was ignoring her. I tried my best to fill his shoes, but I don't think I did a very good job of it. And then my dad did something that nobody had ever imagined. He started dating Edna, a few weeks after Mom's death. I don't think I have ever felt so angry and betrayed by anything in my life, and I don't think I ever will. How could he move on so quickly? Mom and he had been married for 20 years. How was it so easy for him to just replace her with someone else, and not just anyone but her own sister? It was disgusting. My father told me that he did not expect me to understand right now, but I would understand when I'm older. But as of now, I just needed to respect his decision. I told him that I hated him and would never respect his decision to get together with his dead wife's sister. I asked him how it was so easy for him to just move on so quickly, but he didn't say anything. I had a huge fight with him where I called him all sorts of names, but all he could say in his defense was that I would understand his position someday. I told him that he was a disgusting piece of, and that I hoped I never became a man like him. I know I hurt him with my words, but I wanted him to feel the pain I was feeling, the pain Mom would have felt. She would be so distraught if she found out what was happening only months after her death. It was vile and disgusting, and everyone was making me feel as if I was the villain because I wasn't accepting their relationship. Even Aunt Edna tried to talk to me, saying that I should be happy this was happening in the family, so that she could help me move on better. I wanted to slap her right then. I told her that this was not a breakup that I needed to move on from. This was my mother she was talking about, and I would never move on from her death. I also told Aunt Edna that just because she had replaced Mom in Dad's life did not automatically mean she could do so in mine. She told me that she didn't want to replace anyone, just start a new family. I told her that I was not interested in a new family. My family was my mother and my father, and if he chose to have a new family with her so soon at the cost of my mother's memories, I did not want to be a part of this family. Both of them tried to convince me multiple times, but I refused to budge. It got so bad that I used to keep myself locked in my room all the time and only came out to eat or go to school. I shut down every attempt from my father to talk to me, and gradually he stopped trying altogether. So, it was as if we were in some kind of stalemate in the house. We didn't speak to each other and just kept to ourselves. It was toxic and suffocating, and I know Dad was hoping that I would relent, so he could strong-arm me into accepting their relationship. But I stayed firm. I could not allow this, and I knew he didn't need my permission to do anything, but I also knew that I could never accept something like this, especially so soon. I had thought that this was the lowest he could go, but he surprised me completely. A month and a half ago, my aunt and my father's new girlfriend moved into the house. Things had not normalized between Dad and me by that time. He did not tell me what he was doing, and I got no heads up. I just woke up one morning to a lot of commotion and saw Aunt Edna with suitcases and boxes. I asked her what was happening, but she didn't say anything and went to her room. I went to Dad to ask him what was happening in the house, and his only reaction was, "Oh, so now you talk to me." I wanted to punch him right there, but I knew I couldn't. It was repulsive. I knew what was happening, but I just did not want to accept it. This wicked woman was not happy just winning over Mom's husband. Now she had to take over her house and her memories too. Every single second in the house after that felt like someone was strangling me. I couldn't bear to be around them. I had quietly shifted most of Mom's boxes to my room, and that was my only solace. I knew that if Aunt Edna got the chance, she would throw away or discard Mom's things the minute she got her hands on them. She tried to do it too. She asked Dad multiple times where Mom's things were kept, and Dad kept saying that I had them in my room. She has tried to enter my room multiple times, on some pretext or another, but I just don't let her in. I can't stand having her in the same space as my mom, even when I go to school. I lock my room so that she can't come in and mess with my things. I just want to be able to leave this place. Things changed 2 weeks ago when Aunt Edna's daughter, Rachel, a 19-year-old female, came home. Now, Rachel and I have had a fairly good relationship. We are close in age, so we spent a lot of time together growing up. It was as though I had a real sister. But then, Mom got sick, and I spent most of my time caring for her. So, Rachel and I kind of drifted apart. We did keep in touch, but we weren't as close as we used to be. Aunt Edna moved Rachel into the house 2 weeks ago. I was kind of happy to see her because I felt I would now have someone to talk to. But Dad said that since there wasn't enough room in the house for 4 people, I needed to crash at a friend's place for a couple of days until they figured something out. I looked at him in disbelief and asked him why, if the house did not have space for 4 people, which it never really did. He allowed Rachel to come here. He said Rachel was in trouble and, as family, it was our duty to help her. I said I was his family too, just like Mom was, but he had no issues in dropping us the minute Aunt Edna wailed into his life. He didn't say anything to that but told me I had to compromise and stop being difficult, or he would be forced to take action. To be honest, nothing this man does really surprises me anymore. He has sunk to such a horrid level that now I expect him to be a disgusting piece of crap. Anyway, I wasn't worried about myself. I could have actually crashed at a couple of friends' places. I was worried about Mom's stuff. I knew that with me gone, Aunt Edna would try and do something to that, and I wouldn't be able to stop it. And my dad doesn't care enough about either me or his dead wife to stop Aunt Edna. I was worried sick about Mom's stuff and I just didn't leave. I went to my room and locked myself inside. Edna kept on banging on the door, a couple of hours later, asking me to come out so that we could talk, but I just didn't listen to her. I didn't leave my room that day. I was mortified about what could happen, and my paranoia was reaching new heights. The next day, I woke up quite early, locked my room, and went downstairs to grab something to eat. To my utter shock, Dad was sleeping on the couch, waiting for me. It seems the moment he heard me, he got up and told me that he wanted to talk. "I'm not interested in talking to him," I said. I tried to grab something from the fridge and sprint back upstairs, but he blocked my way. I tried to move past him, but I was unsuccessful. He told me point blank that I had a week to move out because they couldn't house me anymore. He explained that he was choosing Rachel over me because I was an insufferable and ungrateful brat who had no gratitude for what he was doing for me, so he would just stop doing it. He told me the maximum he would do out of the goodness of his heart was to send me some money for expenses, but that I needed to leave and make room for his new family. I had tears rolling down my eyes. I didn't even recognize this man. I thought I had only lost one parent, but that was when I realized my other parent did not even look at me as his child. I was just a person to him, or rather, a burden that he could shrug off at any time he wanted. I knew that I was powerless in front of him. I could not do anything. I had to listen to him because, at the end of the day, this was his house, and he was the one who was feeding me and taking care of me. He did not owe me anything. At any given point in time, he could just choose to stop supporting me, and I had to be okay with that. I'm turning 18 soon anyway, so he can use that as his defense as well. I know it is favoritism and hypocrisy because he is willing to house and support a 19-year-old Rachel but not his own son. I don't know what has gotten into him, or maybe he was always like this, a selfish and disgusting human being. It just took this tragedy and trauma to see him for what he really is. I didn't say anything, went back to my room, and cried my heart out. I was being abandoned by my only living parents, and despite everything he had been doing to me for the last few months, it still hurt. We hadn't been talking to each other, and I had begun to realize that maybe I didn't matter to him. But I had still held out hope that one day things would get normal, and we could go back to being father and son again. Clearly, that is never going to happen, and I feel like a fool for believing that this was even a possibility. He didn't love me, and he didn't care what happened to me as long as he got to stay with Aunt Edna. He did not care about anything else. I didn't know where I would go or where I would keep all of Mom's stuff. I was willing to keep only 2 pairs of clothes for myself, but I just couldn't part with any of Mom's things. They are the only bits of her I have left, and I can never let them go, ever. A few hours later, I heard a knock at the door. I did not want to open it, but it was Rachel on the other end. She said that she wanted to help me and that I needed to talk to Grandpa, my maternal grandfather, as soon as I could. She then slid a letter under my door. I didn't trust her, if I'm being honest. I know she was a good person, but it had been years since we had had an actual contact or bond. And at the end of the day, she was her mother's daughter, and her loyalty lay with her mother and no one else. So, I was very skeptical, but I was also out of options. So, I decided to talk to Grandpa. I mean, how much worse could it get than it actually was at this moment? I called up my grandpa. He lived in a different state and started bawling on the phone when I heard his voice. He asked me what was wrong, and I somehow managed to string together coherent sentences to tell him what was happening. It took me a long time to tell him the details of what was happening, and I also told him that it was Rachel who asked me to contact him. He said that he was very happy to hear from me and that he had actually been asking my dad to get me to talk to him for a few months now. But Dad kept saying that I wasn't interested in talking to him. He had wanted to call me, but he had lost his phone and all his contacts, and Dad never gave him my number. He told me that he would take care of everything and that I didn't have to worry. He said that he would be flying down to my city as soon as possible, but I had to be very careful and not reveal this information to anybody. He said that he would be in touch and that I didn't have to worry about anything. But until the time he comes, I had to ensure that I stayed in the house and didn't move out. He said that he would try to be here by next week, but if that didn't happen, he would let me know. He explicitly told me not to leave the house unless and until he comes and to not leave Mom's things unattended or unlocked. I felt both frightened and relieved after talking to him. Relieved because I know he will do something, either get me out or make my father see sense, and also because it feels good and light to be able to talk to an elder. I have been an adult for a long time now, and I just want the luxury to be a kid for a while. I was frightened because I really did not know what would happen now. It seemed so serious, and Grandpa has always been the jolly kind. I know he lost his daughter, but I have my doubts that he is going to stand up for me in front of his other daughter. Things just seem like a mess right now, and the only thing I can do at this point is wait it out. I can only wait for him to come and save me from this mess that my life has become. Update 1. Things have taken a drastic turn now. It now makes absolute sense. I had no idea why Dad was behaving this way earlier, but now that Grandpa is here and he is sorting things out, I get what's happening. Grandpa came a week ago and asked me to meet him. He sent me the address of the hotel he was staying at and told me to get all of Mom's things. He also mentioned that he would send a car. I moved my stuff and Mom's stuff out and told Dad and Aunt Edna that I was leaving. Rachel was at work at that time. I went over to Grandpa's room in the hotel with all the stuff, and he started rummaging through it, looking for something. He finally found what he was looking for. It was a document, but not just any document. They were the papers of the house we currently live in. Then he told me what was really happening. When Rachel and I were born, Grandpa had gifted houses to both of us. Extravagant, I know, but he's loaded, as I found out. He said that he wanted to do something for us, and instead of setting up college funds, he outright bought us houses. Now, the house that is legally supposed to be mine is the one that we lived in all my life. The issue, however, was that since we were minors, both Rachel and me, the house was under the legal guardianship, for lack of a better word, of our respective mothers until we turned 18. I had never known anything about this, and I don't blame Mom at all because she was very sick, and it might have slipped her mind. Why Dad didn't say anything to me is a different question altogether. Anyway, the houses were supposed to come to us when we turned 18. Rachel's house was formally transferred into her name a year ago, a couple of months after she turned 18. It's the same house that Aunt Ed and Rachel had been living in. Now, the issue with my house was that since Mom had passed away before I turned 18, the house would temporarily go to my other guardian, that is, my father, until I turned 18. That was what was originally intended. Grandpa suspects that Aunt Edna and Dad are scheming together to get the house transferred into their names legally, or just steal the papers before I turn 18, so that I cannot do anything about it. This is also why Dad never told me about the house, according to Grandpa, and now it all makes sense why they kept trying to look through Mom's stuff, why Dad has been aloof, and why Aunt Edna has suddenly come. I asked Grandpa what happened to Rachel's house, and he said that the minute Rachel got to know what her mother was up to, she kicked her out of the house. It caused a huge rift between mother and daughter, but they haven't been seeing eye to eye for a couple of years now. That seems strange to me because if that was so, why had she come to live with us? Grandpa said that Rachel was worried about me, and even more concerned because Aunt Edna had moved in with Dad. She had been in constant touch with Grandpa, and both of them had decided that I needed to be moved out and needed to know the truth about everything. That's why she had come home, but nobody suspected her, and Aunt Edna thought that she was trying to make amends. I asked Grandpa what we could do now, since I still had a couple of months before I turned 18. Then Grandpa told me that Mom had actually begun to suspect that Dad had designs on the house when she was sick. She also had a hunch that Dad was having an affair, but she did not know who it was. I think it was Aunt Edna all along. That was when she called Grandpa and asked him to sit with her and get the guardianship details of the house changed. As it stands now, my dad is not the legal caretaker of the house until I turn 18. Mom, without his knowledge, changed the clause in the document and made Grandpa the caretaker. That was the document he was looking for, and that was the document my father had no idea existed. So, all his attempts at taking over the house were moot because he has no guardianship over it anyway. I know this is not the legal terminology for it, but this is how Grandpa explained it to me, and this is what I understand. Essentially, Dad has no right to be in the house anymore, and my grandpa is going to do just that. He said that he has decided he's going to live with me in the house until I turn 18, and since he is the guardian as of now, he is going to throw Dad and Aunt Edna out. I got scared when he said that. I couldn't believe that I had this kind of power over my dad. To be honest, I wouldn't know what to do with it. I'm still a kid who lost his mom and has a troubled family, and I don't want to get embroiled in legal issues. 2. I have handed over the reins to Grandpa, and I'm just going to do as he says. I'm too exhausted by whatever has been going on, and I just need some peace. I told Grandpa that I would do as he says. He told me not to worry. I just hope these issues resolve themselves because I don't think I have it in me to take any more drama or hurt. I'm completely broken, and I just want some peace. Update 2. We confronted Dad and Aunt Edna when they saw Grandpa and me together. They turned pale. Grandpa just wailed inside the house, and Dad tried to protest, but he shut him up real quick. He had also brought his lawyer with him, and I could see that both Dad and Aunt Edna were very nervous. Grandpa, without wasting any time, told Dad that he was the guardian of the property for the next few months, and he wanted to relocate here, which is why he was giving Dad a month's notice to leave the place. My dad got up and started yelling at Grandpa, saying that he had no legal standing, and very harsh words were exchanged. My grandpa just showed him the copy of the new papers, the ones that Mom had made in secret, and my dad's jaw hit the floor. He said that this was a forgery and that he didn't believe it, but Grandpa said that Mom had the right to change the nominee whenever she wanted to, and she had done it. So Dad couldn't really do anything but accept it. Dad could not believe that this had happened, and neither could Aunt Edna. Rachel was laughing. It genuinely seemed that she was enjoying this entire meltdown, and for the first time, she came over to my side and hugged me. I hugged her back and thanked her for everything she had done for me. When Aunt Edna saw this, she realized that Rachel had gone behind her back to help me, and she yanked her arm and slapped her straight across the face. She hit her really hard, and now Rachel has a cut on her face. The badass girl that she is, she just started grinning and said that she was now going to press charges. Aunt Edna sank to the floor in tears, repeating that she was her daughter and that she couldn't do something like this. But I could see the hate in Rachel's eyes. She's not going to let Aunt Edna get off easy. Dad realized that all of this was developing into a huge show, and both he and his little girlfriend were caught on the wrong side. Here, he starts to make amends. He tried to take me aside and talk to me, but Grandpa stopped him. He said that there was no need now to talk to me since he had made it very clear that his loyalties lay with Aunt Edna, not me. Dad said that this was between father and son, and Grandpa had no right to interfere. I told Dad that Grandpa has every right to interfere, and I did not want to talk to him anyway. Nothing he could say to me now would make any difference. Finally, all the pent-up anger came out. I called him every name in the book and told him everything that I really thought of him. I told him that he was a failure of a husband and dad, and therefore a failure of a man. I said that he had the chance to make things right and to let us be a family again. But he was too greedy and selfish to ever want anything that would ease others' pain. I don't even remember half the things I said because I had no control over myself in that moment. When I stopped, everyone was quiet. Rachel just took me upstairs to my room and sat with me for a long time. I feel so grateful that I at least have someone to look out for me, my sister and my grandfather. I don't know what I would be doing if they hadn't been here with me. I don't know what is going to happen next, but at least I know that I won't have to fight this battle alone anymore. I know now that I have support, and that I am not wrong for not accepting my father's treatment of me and his complete disregard and disrespect for the memories of my mother. Update 3. This will be my final update for all of those who were hoping for a dramatic, tear-eyed reconciliation between father and son. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but none of that has happened. Rachel pressed charges on Aunt Edna. Aunt Edna tried every trick in the book to stop her, but Rachel is as stubborn as one can get. Grandpa has moved in, and Dad has a month to move out. He has been trying to talk to me one-on-one, but I reject every attempt. Moreover, Grandpa is keeping vigil, and my dad is really scared of him, so he isn't trying anything again. We got back all of Mom's stuff. It's still safely kept in my room, and I plan on putting it back in place once Dad is gone. I will seal Mom's room because I don't need an entire house to myself. Anyway, a lot of you suggested I go to therapy to deal with everything that has happened. I suggested the same to Grandpa, and while he doesn't believe in this stuff, he has given me money to get help. Rachel has been coming over every day to give me company. I hate how we had all this distance between us, but I know that she has always been looking out for me. She has said she's going to help me find a good therapist, and that we can always hang out together. It's not a very happy update, but it seems like things will soon fall into place. I don't think I'm ever going to talk to my dad again, even if he does feel remorse, which he doesn't at this point. The trust has been broken, and nothing on earth can make it the same again.